So you're thinking about hiking New Zealand's most popular great walk, the Tongariro Alpine Crossing, but you're not quite sure whether you're up to the task or how to go about tackling it. Well, you're in the right place. I'm Alexander Ayling, welcome to my channel, and in this video, I'll be sharing with you my 9 essential tips to make sure you complete the Tongariro Alpine Crossing and you have a spectacular time doing it. So stay tuned. Before I get started with my tips, I just want to give you a quick reminder. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you are not already subscribed. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and make sure to drop your comments, any questions you have, or any tips of your own down there in the comment section. All right, let's get into the video. Tip number 1. Be prepared. I know that this sounds pretty basic, but you would be surprised how many people we saw who were utterly unprepared for the magnitude of this adventure. The Tongariro Alpine Crossing is located in New Zealand's Tongariro National Park, right in the central plateau of the North Island. It's an extremely popular hike, but it's also a pretty treacherous one. It's 19.4 kilometers long. That's over 12 miles with 750 meters of climbing, over 2,500 feet, with a 2,000 foot or 700 meter descent on the other side. Now, I'm a physically fit young man who was actually training for a marathon the month that I did the Tongariro Alpine Crossing, and I can tell you that it is a slog. My knees hurt, my quads, my hamstrings. There's something about that hiking on the uneven terrain and making sure that you have a good solid footing that really just makes it kind of a grueling hike. Also, it's done in one day, starting very early in the morning and hustling to get over the top and back to the car park on the other side so you don't miss your transport. It's a big day, but it is a spectacular hike, and it's definitely something that you should do at least once in your life, especially if you're making a trip over here to New Zealand and you're short on time. So make sure that you're prepared physically, that you've been doing some walking, some hiking, and also prepare yourself mentally. This is gonna be a big day. It's gonna be challenging, but slow and steady wins the race, and you'll definitely make it if you follow the rest of these tips, so stay tuned. Tip number 2 is to pack the right gear. The Tongariro Alpine Crossing is famous for experiencing all 4 seasons in one day. That's right, you could start the hike off with sunshine, get some rain on the ascent. When you get to the peak, you'll find yourself in thick cloud and a snowstorm, only to descend right back down into sunshine on the other side. So you need to be prepared for all of those different elements, which is why it's really important to make sure you pack the right gear. The best way to do that is to use layers. If you're interested in the gear that I'm gonna talk about, I will have links in the description of this video to all of the equipment that I used for this hike. So if you don't have some of this stuff, don't worry, you can grab it right down there in the description box. So I start things off with a base layer, long sleeve merino wool shirt, a lighter one, especially if you're doing this in the summer or in the autumn. And I will wear a lightweight, breathable set of hiking pants, any type of stretchable, quick drying pant is gonna cover your bases here. After that, it's really important to bring a lightweight puff jacket that you can stuff away. I love my Patagonia Nano Puff jacket, but once you get to the main ascent, you will start to warm up. Your body's gonna get hot. Got a little bit of heat going from that climb, so I'm gonna take off a layer. This is when dressing right really comes into play. Layering is so important because you can just take it off. Whereas if you're wearing a sweatshirt or whatever and a t-shirt, you can't really do that. Having fun?
Yeah, I feel.
Getting a little sweat going?
Yeah, but still chilly enough to keep my thermal on and not go to my t-shirt yet. Yeah, definitely needed to take off my puff and my rain jacket because it was a bit too much.
After that, you're gonna want a waterproof windbreaker. That's gonna be your shell. just in case you run into some inclement weather up there, like a rain squall or a snowstorm. You want to be able to have something that's going to protect you from the wind and protect you from the wet. Then you can use that mid layer as well as your base layer, and you'll have a much better protection from the elements. Also, depending on the season, it might be a good call to have a little beanie or some lightweight gloves, protecting against that colder weather that you might encounter. You'll need a good day bag. 30 liters is ideal. I used one that had a built-in slot for a camelback. I love having a lot of hydration. And you'll also need some space for food. You'll need some space for your extra clothing. And you'll probably want to bring a camera on this trip because it's really scenic up there. So 30 liters seemed to be the right amount of storage for all the things that I needed for this hike. It's always a good idea to bring a small first aid kit, and if you have one of those Garmin InReach, those GPS emergency beacons, throw that in as well, because a lot of people end up having to get rescued on the Tongariro Alpine Crossing, but we'll talk about that in more detail a little bit later in this video. Also, really important, wear good wool hiking socks. That brings me to the next tip, wear proper footwear. I couldn't believe how many people I saw setting off on this hike who were wearing like low top Converse, skate shoes, even somebody wearing sandals or jandals as they're called here in New Zealand. I feel for those people because they must have had a horrible experience. Remember, we're hiking over a volcano. It's a tall mountain. It's jagged, it's rocky. And above me, you can just see we're essentially in what was once a lava flow. There are plenty of opportunities to stub your toe if you're wearing open-toed shoes or cut your feet. So you really want to make sure you're wearing the right footwear. Big boulders like this, full all the way down. So right on the other side of the peak, we begin the long, slow, slippery descent down what is essentially just volcanic dust and rock, but it's deep and it's slippery, and you need to be, just if you come and do this, be prepared because it's no walk in the park. I would suggest wearing hiking boots, preferably ones that you have already broken in so you're not getting any worse blisters than you might actually get already. And if you're wanting to wear something a little bit lighter, make sure it's a sturdy trail runner. The point is protect your feet because the terrain is unforgiving, especially when you make it to the top, because there is this whole long descent down the back of the peak where you're walking in this deep, slippery, slidey shale. It's sharp, so avoid that fate, wear the right footwear. Tip number 4, bring adequate water and food. I forgot the sandwiches.
You're lying.
I'm not lying.
No, that was your one food job.
I brought apples.
You're joking.
I'm not joking. I made a huge mistake. I went the day before to the grocery store. I was late. There's only one grocery store in Turangi, which is the main town where you'll probably be staying before you hiked. Actually closed when I arrived, so I had to go to the gas station next door. I bought some pre-made sandwiches and a lot of different snacks. Unfortunately, I forgot to transfer the sandwiches into my day bag and I left them in the van. Luckily, I took all the other snacks and put them in my day bag, so I did forget the sandwiches.
No.
My wife has yet to let me forget that.
That was your one food job.
I will never forget the sandwiches again, I promise you that, because even though we had adequate snacks to get us through, the sandwiches would have been really nice up at the top. And then on the same note, make sure that you bring enough water. I am kind of a water fiend, so I always pack a lot of water. I had a 3-liter Camelback and an additional 1-liter bottle of water. I went through all of those. My wife drank her 2-liter Camelback and a bottle of water, so she drank 3 liters of water. She's much smaller than I am, and I think that puts into perspective just how much your body needs to stay hydrated on this hike, because you are going up high elevation and you're coming back down, It's a big day and you need to stay hydrated and fueled, so make sure that you're prepared with adequate water and food. Tip number 5, bring sun protection. New Zealand is already a place with extremely strong sun. When you take into account that you're gonna be going up high in elevation, the sun gets stronger. So it's really important to make sure that you're protected from the sun, bringing some sunscreen, and I would recommend you bring like a floppy hat with 360-degree sun protection. Also bring a buff to protect your face when the sun is out, or if the weather gets kind of windy and cold, it doubles as kind of like a scarf. So that's a good piece of equipment to bring as well. But yeah, you really want to protect yourself from the sun. You'd be surprised how quickly you can get a serious sunburn down here in New Zealand. So make sure you do not forget your sun protection. Tip number 6, make sure you bring toilet paper. Why? Because along the hike, there are a couple of outhouses, long drops as they're called, but oftentimes there's so many people using the trail that these run out of toilet paper, especially higher up on the mountain. So if you don't have that, it's gonna be pretty uncomfortable. You don't need to bring a whole roll of toilet paper, but you can just bring a little bit in a plastic bag to keep it dry, and that should cover you. But that brings me to tip number 7, which is make sure you go before you go. I would highly suggest taking some time before you begin the trek to use the bathroom and to go number 2, because it only gets worse the higher you go, and you don't want to be standing around waiting in line. The lines actually got pretty long to use the restrooms. And don't go number 2 off trail or on trail. There's nothing worse than seeing somebody's leftovers with some toilet paper just sitting right there in the middle of the trail. I do not understand how people do that. Don't be one of those people. Protect this place. It's a sacred place to the local Maori, and it is a national park. So we want to do our best to conserve and to protect these places. And you can do that by not just going bathroom wherever you need to go. Save it, go before you start your hike. That way you're less likely to have to use the bathroom during the hike. Tip number 8, transport. How do you get to the trailhead and how do you get back when you finish? Well, if you have a group and you each have a car, you've got 2 cars, you could drive and drop a car off at the end and then drive back and drop a car off from the beginning. But that is a lot of driving. For $50 per person, you can just book in one of the shuttles. There are a bunch of different companies that you can choose from. They'll pick you up from central places in Turangi. We got picked up from the local caravan park, the campground. The pickup was, I want to say, around 5, maybe 5:30 in the morning. It takes about an hour from Turangi to get to the trailhead, and then they drop you off, you do the hike, and they pick you up on the other side. I think the first buses back started around 2 p.m. and they went till 4, but you really want to keep an eye on the time, because we started and stopped a lot taking photos and shooting video, and we were really down to the wire to make it for that last bus. Boom, good job. We made it. If you miss the bus, I think there's an additional charge, and I'm not quite sure how that works because we didn't miss the last bus, but I know that there were people from our group who did not make it onto that final bus, and I think they charge you a fair bit of money to get on the bus afterwards. So it's worthwhile keeping an eye on the time and booking with one of the transport companies. Lastly, have fun, but stay safe. The Central Plateau region of New Zealand has more mountain rescues than anywhere else in the country, and 90% of those rescues take place on the Tongariro Alpine Crossing, primarily because the weather can turn very quickly, and there are lots of people who are doing this hike who are just not adequately prepared. So by following these tips, you can stay safe, you can have an amazing adventure, and you can tick off one of these amazing great walks from your bucket list. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope these tips were useful for you. And if you haven't already, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my upcoming videos. If you're new here, check out my channel, see some of my other content. I've done the Milford Track here in New Zealand, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. There's a lot of content here in the outdoor space. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have an amazing hike. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Drop a comment down there in the comment section, and we'll see you on the trail. Peace.